Welcome, everybody. I'm really excited to share Storied with you today. Allison, I'm just going to ask you, can you see my screen okay?
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, I'm going to tell you all about Storied, and so make sure you're asking questions along the way. I love to get questions. A lot of times when I do these demo presentations, I get the questions last longer than the presentation does. So I'm anxious to chat with you all and see what kind of questions you have about our product. So this is kind of from sign up to StoriedBook. We really promote ourselves as being the end-to-end platform for family history. And so I'm going to kind of go through what that looks like from the beginning, all the way through our new StoriedBook product and how you can have a hardcover book in your hands as a finished product. So I am Heather. I'm the Associate Marketing Manager and Genealogist here at Storied. I love newspapers. It's one of my favorite parts of our site. So I had to put a newspaper clipping here from a family member. I love old photos. And then there's a picture of me and my family. We love the Smoky Mountains. I'm located in Georgia, but I'm originally from Indiana. So super excited to be sharing this with any of you folks that are from Indiana. So I wanted to start because I'm super excited about our kudos that we received last week. Family Tree Magazine each year puts out the 101 best websites for genealogy, and we actually are in two different categories. So Storied made it as the best family tree and sharing website in that category, and then we also were in the best historical newspaper website category with Newspaper Archive. So I will talk about that as I go through the presentation, but Newspaper Archive is under the Storied umbrella. So that's why we are in two different categories. So super excited about those kudos for us. This is our Storied homepage. So from the Storied homepage, now this is going to look a little bit different than what yours would as a new user because you don't have things populated. So no trees or no stories. So this is one that has already got information included in it. We're going to talk about a couple of different parts of this site and then go through everything in the navigation panel. So the first section that we'll talk about is this here that I've highlighted with the arrow. This is the story feed. And the story feed is personalized for every person at Storied. So my feed would look different than Allison's feed, would look different from your feed. What you'll see in your story feed are those stories that are yours. And if you're in a group with other people, those stories would show up in your story feed. And if you follow other people. So it's going to be very personalized. You're not going to see stories from every single user that is on Storied. So it's going to be specific for you. So that is the story feed. And then this is the navigation panel. So this is what we'll talk about, all of these different pieces of story. This is really just the kind of a quick jumping point for each of those sections on the site. And then over here on the right, we have our hints. And so a couple of different pieces of the hints section. So the top are the actual hints that we have available on Storied based on the people that are in your tree. We also have newspaper matches. And so newspaper matches are going to show up as kind of their own little piece. And then we've got recently viewed. I love recently viewed because recently viewed shows me the people, the 5 people that I have most recently interacted with in my trees. And you'll notice that each one of them, they could be in different trees. So like this guy, Albert Malone, is from the Doherty tree. Then I have one from a Bollinger tree, a Doherty tree. So they're different trees. And because they're recently viewed, if I click on them, it's kind of a quick link back to that person in that tree. So that is your homepage. So another thing that we have available is we really want to do engagement on the site. So you engaging with other people. And so here's an example that you can see. I've got 83 followers and then I'm following 97, and you can see that over here on my little profile. So what this does is this is a really nice way to interact with people and get those stories to your feed. So for example, I did a session at Roots Tech and I was showing some of my stories. And so people were then starting to follow me, popping up. I'm like, who are these people? They were people from the session at Roots Tech. So this is a way that you can get stories into your story feed. So if you follow someone, their stories are going to show up there. So that's one way to kind of engage with other people. And then the other way to do it is to like and comment. So people talk a lot about how there's a very social media type feel to Storied, and that is intentional. We do have likes and comments. You can see here that I've got this story is just from the story feed, and you probably can't see it if the little tools are covering it on mine, but there's a little heart there, so you can like it, you can comment. It's the same tools as I have here. So you can see this one has 1 like and 1 comment. People have added a comment, so you can see those, and other people can interact, the people that follow you. And then this little guy right here is the share button, which is really nice because you can share via email. So if you wanted to share with other family members, you can share a story with them. They don't have to have a paid account at Storied to be able to view the story. They can just view a link that you send them. And it also works for social media, which is really nice. So a lot of times with our social media accounts at Storied, I will grab that copy link and I will put it on social media. And it's just a quick way people can click on that and read a story that someone has added on our site. So stories. There are a couple of different ways, actually multiple different ways that you can tell stories. I'm really going to focus on the one here where you can click on My Stories on the left in the navigation panel, but you can see here too that this is another way for you to tell a story from here. You can start it there. So when you are adding stories to your account, this is my section of my stories for my account, and this is actually just a demo account. So you can see a couple of things from this screen. You can add a story from here, so another way to add a story. You can see a list of categories, and these are the only categories we have currently. That is definitely something in product we've talked about and are working towards having different categories for people. But this is a great way to, when you categorize a story, you can give it multiple categories, and it's a great way to kind of sort and find them faster. So for instance, in this example, all the stories in this account, I only have 13, but my personal account, I have over 400. So it makes it a little bit tricky if I want to find a particular story if I don't use my categories to filter out. So this makes it really nice. If I want to look for something that is considered, I tagged it as a relationship, then I can click on the relationship category and only the stories that I tagged with the relationship tag are going to show up. So that's a great way to kind of sort quickly and easily. So these are all of my stories, and we're going to talk about how that looks different because there are different places within Storied where stories pop up, but they look a lot different based on who is telling that story or who is part of that story. So this is my stories, and this is every single story that I have in my account. This is our story creator. So some things that you can see here. I've got 2 photos as my main photos. And then you'll notice down here, I've got additional media, and I could add more media if I want to. So a story can have up to 100 media items. Media items are going to be photos, they could be PDFs, and they can be audio files right now. Those are what we support. So you can have up to 100 per story. And that's something to kind of think about as we get towards the end, and we'll start talking about books. This is going to kind of come back up the whole idea of I've got 2 main pictures, and then I've got additional pictures that are part of this story. So we'll talk about how that looks. But I can resort these. This is super easy. When I click on these, I can change the order of these 2 photos. I can add one of these photos as one of my main photos. So that is adding my media. You can see here that I've got an audio file, and this says other files, and it says audio and PDF. So this is, I don't have a PDF attached. I just have my audio attached, and this is where they would show up. So that is an audio file. And then I've got a title, and then I've got location and date for my story. And then we've got some story formatting tools, bold, italic, underline. You can do a bulleted list or a numbered list in your story. Some things to think about with the location is really important. And I do encourage people to add a location because Later on, if you do create a book, we actually have a location index that's auto-created for you. So that comes into play. And they are type ahead. So the location, if you start typing in a location, we have them all as part of our database. And when you start typing it, it will pop up things that are relative to that you are typing. Once you've typed your story, then when you click next, this is what you'll get. You'll get a little thumbnail that shows the main picture, a little blurb of it. You can include a story author, which I really like because maybe this isn't your story. Maybe this is an ancestor's story, and you can include that ancestor as the story author. And then you can tell who is in the story. You can add people, and you can even add pets. We have a very robust relationship option as part of our database, and we'll talk about that when we talk about people and their profiles. But you can really add anyone you want to. It does not have to be someone that is part of your family tree. But this is the power of Storied and writing the story when it's attached to your family tree, because these people, Almira is in my tree, and that's why she popped up. That's why she is showing with her picture, because I can tag people from my tree and others to my stories. And this works just like the location does. If you create a book, then we also create an automatic people index in the book. And so anyone that's in a story will show up in the index of the book. Here are the categories for your stories that I talked about before, kind of like the tags. And these are totally optional. So you can choose none of them, or you can choose as many as you want. So you can choose multiple categories for a story. And then you get to choose how you want to publish the story. And so you'll see that I've got published to these groups. So any groups that you are in charge of, or any groups that you are a member of, are going to show up in this list. So when you go to publish this story, you can tell it you want it to go to a certain group. So like I have a group that's my husband and my 2 kids. And so if I write a story, I might say, hey, send this to this group, so it kind of pops up for them and is new. And then we also have access. We've got public access that anybody can view, or we have private. And I will be honest, I do both. You know, sometimes I do public, and the public it will show up in Google. I had a story the other day that I wrote about my second great grandfather. And when I searched his name, just did a Google search, the link to his story popped up because it was a public link. But again, sometimes there are things that, you know, are only for my eyes or only for my family. And so I will create a private story if I don't want other people to see it. We also have Story Assist, and this is really a great feature if you feel stuck or it's hard for you to get started when writing a story. So this is using AI technology. You can put in a story tone, who is narrating the story, what the story is about, and then you can include up to 5 details. So here is a detail line. This is 1. Once you enter that, then another one pops up, and you can have 5. And those boxes are they can go on for quite some time. I don't put just 1 or 2 details in a line. I will sometimes put a whole paragraph in a line. So you can really add a lot of information and detail, but this has been very helpful. We do have a lot of users that will use Story Assist, and we really talk about how important it is that this is a rough draft. And, you know, there are going to be things that get put into the story that aren't true, and that's not the way it happened. And so kind of considering the Story Assist as a rough draft to get you started, and then changing it to meet the needs of your story. I don't use this a lot, but I like to write. So I have used it before, and it comes up with some pretty incredible things that like really happened. I wrote one about my brother and me knocking out his front teeth when he was 2, accidental. And it said, you know, my parents took him to the dentist, and the dentist said there was no permanent damage. And AI came up with that. I did not say that. But when I told my mom, she was like, that is exactly what happened. So, you know, it's something to play around with if you feel like it's hard to get started or you feel stuck. Another option that we have that we added is family recipes. And this is a really fun one. I love this one so much. So many of us have family recipes that we want to share with our family members, and they are passed down through the generations. So when you do a family recipe, you'll notice when you do a story at the very top, there's a drop down and you can choose story or family recipe. And it's very much like the story creator, but we've added some things in to make creating a recipe super easy. So you can still add up to 100 media items. You can give the recipe a name. I love this part. You can include a recipe background. So is there a story that goes along with this recipe that you want to include? The ingredients and the directions section are so nice because they are built for you to very quickly and easily add the ingredients and direction. They're numbered or bulleted to make it easy. And I've copied and pasted from, maybe a Word document where I have a recipe, and it just is super easy to paste in. You can add additional details to it, maybe notes about the recipe, and then if you want a location and a date for the recipe. And this is an example of what a recipe would look like. And so I wanted to show you two because this one was just such a smaller version of it. But here's the story and then ingredients and directions. And you can see this is a close-up of what those ingredients and directions look like. And a lot of people do ask when you're writing stories and writing recipes, if you do create a book, they can be both incorporated in the same book. So I do have a book that I can show that is all recipes, but then we have books that a lot of customers create that are multifunctional. So you have some recipes in it and some stories in the books. And then this is an example after you finish writing the recipe and entering it, it asks whose recipe this is, who might be mentioned in the recipe or the story. And then the category is going to automatically be selected as recipes for this one, but you can take that off or add additional ones if you want to. The next option over on the left-hand side in navigation is My Scrapbook. So kind of like My Stories was all of my stories that I have on the site, totally everything I've written. My Scrapbook is going to be all of the media that you have on your account. So it's going to show up, and again, mine is crazy. Like my stories of 400, my media is insane. So it's so much easier to sort in your scrapbook by the different types of media, which makes it super quick and easy to find things. So you can have all media, which is everything. You can sort by just your photos. You can sort by audio files you have, PDFs, and then newspaper clippings. And so you can see here, just to give you an idea. So this is a newspaper clipping at the top, and then here is a PDF, and it tells you that with the little icon, and then this is what an audio file looks like. So you can click any of those buttons, and it will sort them by that type. For each one of your media items for your photos, you can add details. So to add details to a photo, you can include a title, you can do a date if you want to, and a location. You can add a description. It tells who added it, which this is nice if you have a group of people. That if a group is adding pictures, this is going to tell you who added that picture, but anybody could add information to the photo if it's in a group, which makes that nice. And then my favorite part is this section here where I can tag people from my trees to a photo. So this one here, I've tagged William. This is him, but I could tag additional people to this photo. And then the other option that's so nice is I can create a story. So if I go to this photo, I can click on create a story and it will give me my story starter or my story creator with this photo already added in the media. Another thing that's really nice here, I don't have it as an option, you can't see it, but if I had created a story already using this photo, it would show up here and it would be linked. So if I had a story called The Family Photo, you would see that here and it would have a blue link and I could click that story to see the story with that photo. The next option on our side navigation is My Family Trees. And My Family Trees, very similar to other sites, you can add your family trees. We have 3 different ways to add a tree. You can start a tree from scratch. You can upload a GEDCOM file. So if you have one from another family history site, You can do that. And we now have, which is super exciting, we have import from family search. So if you have a family search account, when you click on import from family search, it will ask you to use your credentials to log into family search. And then it will upload your tree from family search straight into Storied. So that is a really nice feature that we have available now. This is what the family tree view looks like. So up here in the upper left-hand corner, if I have multiple trees, this is a drop down so I can see the different trees and navigate to them. This is my home person for this tree, Emma. I know she's the home person because I call this her tree card. Her tree card is black and the others are white. So she's the home person for this tree, which everyone else expands from. These are her siblings up here. And this is a drop down as well, like you can expand and collapse it. Those are her siblings, and then this is her child, her husband, and then these are her parents, grandparents, and so on. The people that have the little blue and white light bulb, that means they have a hint in their profile. So we'll talk about that when we get to people profiles. So if I were to click then on Emma's card or Rudolph's card, this is the close-up version of the tree card once I click on it, and I have several different options I can do, but this kind of gives me a quick view of this individual. So I can see their name, birth and death dates, locations, they have a hint. I can view their profile from here, view the tree from here, do a quick edit, which is just kind of their birth and death information and name. I can add family members. I can search records, and when I search records from here, it just auto populates the fields of the record search with the information you've included. And then it also tells me if I have any newspaper matches. And so this individual has 555 newspaper matches. So from here, if I were to click on this view profile, that's the section that we're going to talk about now. So when you view someone's profile, they have multiple tabs. They don't look like tabs, I guess, but that's always what I call them. So they have these different options here on their profile. And so stories is one of them. I talked about all the different ways that you can start a story and how stories look different in different locations on the site. And this is an example. So these stories are only the stories that Emma has been tagged in. So you can see that there are 5 stories for Emma's profile. So every one of these stories, Emma was tagged to the story. So it looks and works just like my stories with every single story on the site, but this is specifically talking about Emma. So that's a nice way to kind of just get Emma's information and the stories that she's part of. You get kind of a quick glimpse here of her parents, spouse, and children. And then the next tab is Scrapbook. Scrapbook is the same way. Instead of seeing the media for everything I have on the Storied account of mine, I can see just the media that has been tagged with this individual. And then the details page, this is the details where you can see, again, family members, and you can see life events on this page. And what makes Storied a little bit different than other family history sites is we have inline editing. So you can see like this right here, Lexington, Kentucky is blue because this is built, basically it's like a spreadsheet. So any of these are like the cells of a spreadsheet. And even though this is Almira's profile, if I were to click on Uriah's death place, I could change that right here because that's what inline editing is. So you can click on any of those kind of spreadsheet cells that are on a person's profile and change and add that information on the fly there. Relationships is probably one of my favorite things. I absolutely love that we can add relationships that are outside the family tree. So when I was adding people to the stories, I said that I could choose people from my family trees, or I can choose people that are not part of my family tree, can do relationships. And so these are the relationships for William. And you can see he's got a neighbor, he's got a business partner, and he even has a pet. And I don't have images for them, but I could put an image with those people if I wanted to. These are the kind of categories that you can give the relationships. You can do friends, classmates, neighbors, military comrades, colleagues, fellow congregants, pets, but then there's others down there. And others is probably my favorite. I use it all the time. So an example, you can put anything that you want in the others category. When I create a relationship for somebody using other, I can type whatever I want. So for example, I have a friend of mine was a coach when I was in school, and he is now a friend. So I put for other, I put coach and friend because it was important for me to have both of those relationships established. So think about organizations that you're part of, summer camp at a certain location. You really can make them anything that you want. So relationships are a great feature and just something a little bit different. We all know that those people are just as important to our stories as our family members. And then we have hints. So the hints tab are where your hints are going to show up. If you have a family search family tree, you also can import your memories, which is really nice. So any of the memories that are on family search, you can import those. I would click on review and it would import those in. And it's really nice the way it works because it imports them correctly. So if it's a photo, it imports it in as a photo. If it's a story, it actually starts a story with that information as the story. So those are things that you'll find in hints as well as other things, but I just wanted to highlight the family search part. And then the other thing on the hints page that you'll find are the newspaper matches. And so newspaper matches are going to be kind of split out. This one is not a super great example because all 555 of his matches are in Salt Lake City. But what it does is it takes locations that a person has lived in and their birth, marriage, and death information and dates, and it sorts newspapers that they find based on the dates and the locations. So when you look at that, you can review if you click on that to review the matches, then you'll get a list of a thumbnail of the image, the newspaper it's in, date, location, and then a little blurb of the OCR for that. If I were to click on one, then that takes me to the actual newspaper page and it already has that person highlighted. So anywhere his name pops up, I will see that in yellow. From here, you can make a clipping. And so I talked about how Newspaper Archive is integrated as part of the Storied site. This is where this really is so powerful. So I don't have to leave the Storied site to search newspapers at Newspaper Archive. I can do it straight on the site. I can do a clipping, and after I do my clipping, then I can tag the person from my family tree, and then it becomes part of my media. Groups are another feature. So groups work a couple of different ways. So this one is showing that I have 2 groups. My personal account, my groups are ridiculous. I can't see them all. I have a expand and collapse because I have so many. So groups work 2 different ways. You can be a member of a group and you can just have a free Storied account. You don't have to, and so I'll talk about that now. To have a Storied account, a free Storied account, you can add as many family trees as you want for free. You can write as many stories as you want for free, and you can be in as many groups as you want for free. That doesn't cost anything. If you want to be in charge of a group, then that is where the part of the subscription plan comes into play, is when you want to be in charge of a group. You can be in charge of up to 10 groups, and those groups could have as many as 500 people in them. So groups are going to be all sorted together, whether you're in charge of them or whether you are just a member of that group over here. And the way groups work is groups are a private space that only people that have been invited to that group can access. So it kind of reminds me of a profile page for somebody. You've got options up here, kind of tabs at the top of your group. So this is my Doherty Family Adventures. I've got a story feed in my group. So this is where I was talking about, like I have one for my kids and my husband. And so our family group, only the stories that one of the 4 of us adds to the group will show up in the story feed. So again, it's a private space for sharing just within that group. Then you also have stories that are just part of that group. You have a scrapbook that's just the scrapbook for that group. And then you can see a list of the members that are in that group. The only people that can invite people to the group is the sponsor, or the leader of the group is the only person that can invite people. Super easy to create a group. You can give it any name you want. You can give it a description, and then it's going to be a personalized URL. So it's based on how you create your group name. So it's going to be storied.com/groups, and then whatever the rest is your private URL for that group. The next options that we have are our search for historical records and then newspaper searches. So historical records is going to be very similar to other family history sites. You can search broadly and search all of our historical records. You can search by type. So if you wanted to search only by the census, you could click on that and it would only search in our census records. Birth, marriage, death. If you go to the site, you can click on those to see the different types of records that we have in each of those different types. I will say one thing that we're very excited about. So we have a completely different index for the 1930, 40, and 50 censuses than other sites. So for example, when we did the 1950 census, when we created the index for that, we created our own index. Whereas Ancestry and MyHeritage and Family Search, they all went together and they created their own. And just for anybody that is an avid researcher, why that is important is because the index is going to be different. So our index is going to be different than the index that you find on the other sites. So where, you might not be able to find something on one site, you might be able to find it on another. So just kind of think that through. A lot of people say, well, everybody has the census. Well, but the index is different. So that's an important feature. And then newspapers. So if you click on this, this is going to search the newspaper archive collection of newspapers. Again, straight at the Storied site. You don't have to go out to the newspaper archive site to look up the newspapers. You can do it straight on Storied. And then the last feature that we have are the print storied books, and this could not be easier. So print storied books is really as easy as, I always say, as easy as 1, 2, 3. So our storied books are up to 200 pages. You can actually get more than that, but the standard comes with up to 200 pages. They're full color. It is hardcover, and that is included as part of an annual Storied subscription. And we'll talk about that. Some things that are a little bit unique with our books. So you'll see here that, and I'll show it again on another slide, but this here is a QR code and a play button. So each story of a Storied book has a unique QR code that if someone is reading the book and they scan the QR code, it takes them to the online version of the story. And why that's important is because in the book, and I know this one shows 5, but it's because it was a collage. A book has 2 pictures printed per story, whereas we can add up to 100 media items for every story. So where that is nice is if you are reading the story in the book and someone scans a QR code, it takes them online and they can see if there are 100 media items, they can see them all on there for that particular story. The play button lets them know that there's an audio file attached. So if you have an audio file, they click on that QR code, takes them to the online version, and there they can play the audio of maybe that person telling the story. So how do you create the book? Super simple. So the first thing you do is you're going to select the stories that you want for your book. So this is an example of stories that I have here, and you can see over on the left that I have added check marks in the stories that I want. So that's step 1. Then I would click next. The second step is being able to reorder the stories. So this is a drag and drop feature. You can drag and drop those in any order that you want to choose the story order. And then the last, third step is to create your cover. And this is really cool. I love to do this because it happens in real time. So some things that you can do, you can create a title and a subtitle. And as you are typing, they change here in this kind of live view of it. You can add a foreword. I usually use that as kind of like a dedication page when I add mine. And then you can do, the cover image is a couple of different things. You can do a full cover image, which is this one. You can do a half page image for the cover, or you could do no image for the cover. So you have different options there. And then we also have 20 different custom colors that you can choose for your cover. And you just can't see that on this screen, but they're down at the bottom. And when you click on them, it will change it in the live view. And that's it. The next step is for you to put in your shipping information and the book is done. So super quick and easy. And what's really nice about that is I talked about how if you create a book, the locations that you enter in your stories and the people that you enter in your stories, those indexes are created for you. Like you don't have to do anything to create those. They're automatically created and will be part of the final product. This is an example. I always just like to show this one. This is an example. So our CEO, his mom passed away at the beginning of this year, and they created a memorial book for her within like a week. They had like 30 people told 65 stories in a week, and they put them all together. And one thing that was just so powerful and very emotional, his mom played the violin. And so these are the different songs that he had recorded her audio, recorded her playing. And so in his actual book, if you scan the QR code, you can see all the different audio files. And online, when you click on that, you can listen to her play the violin, which is just, it's incredible. So just some other things about Storied and what else we have going on. So we're on all kinds of social. So if you are on social, make sure to follow us. We post almost every single day. Lots of different things, tips, tricks, story ideas. We also have a resource center, and I'm working currently on building that up. We do have a lot of content there now, but I'm continually adding things to that. Things that you would find on there. We have blog posts on there. We have a lot of educational materials for download. Our podcast is on there. This is our pod just to show you that we have a podcast. We have had some great guests on there. That's available on our YouTube channel as well. We have courses available for you. The Storied Certified is just a really digging deep down and dirty into learning everything there is to know about Storied. This is our YouTube channel. And then we also have the mobile app available for Apple and Android users. Love the mobile app. I use it all the time. I really like just being able to read stories on the go, but there are lots of times if I'm waiting somewhere, maybe at the doctor's office, and I want to start a story, I can start it on my phone and then finish it online, or I can finish it on my phone too, but usually I'm kind of working in both arenas. So lots of different resources available out there for Storied. And then I've got lots going on this slide. So I will definitely take some questions. I'll stop sharing my screen here just a minute because I will show you guys too. I've got some example books that I'd like to share with you of different ones that people have done. This is my email address. I'm always happy for people to reach out to me and ask questions, ideas they have for stories, but I love to hear it all. So please feel free to email me. And then for you guys, I created a coupon code for 10% off a subscription. It's ACPL24. And that a Storied Ultimate subscription, it includes everything that's on the site. So you have access to all the content. You can create up to 10 groups. You have the family search integration with the tree and the memories, all the historical records. You get newspaper archive on site. And then that also includes a storied book. So again, that's up to 200 pages hardcover and full color, and that's all included in the subscription. The regular subscription price is $155.88, so it would be 10% off that. And that's for an annual subscription to everything. Any questions? I would love to hear questions that you guys have.
Can you exclude some people from your family search tree if I wanted to do a direct line only instead of everyone? Extended family, is that possible?
Not currently. And currently it only does 4 generations. So I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but I know exactly what you're talking about. But right now you cannot, I mean, the only way to do it would be to delete those people. Yeah, you cannot exclude them. It's an all or nothing. And that works for memories too. So if you have, for example, some people have so many memories. Like if you have 50 memories for somebody, you have to import all of them or none of them. You don't have an option to do. I mean, they're working on that right now, but that is the only option currently. Good question.
If someone wanted to buy multiple copies of the book, how much do they cost?
Additional copies of the same book are $49.99. But if you are a subscriber, you can get the additional copies for 25% off. And I want to say it's like 37.50-ish for additional copies. And in the, I'm gonna try to start my video. I hope it doesn't get grouchy, and I'm gonna stop my share. In the book, there is a QR code at the very beginning of the book that is specifically for additional copies. And we did that on purpose so that people that wanted to order additional copies, I mean, you could order additional copies for your family members, but if someone else or another family member was reading the book, they could order their own copy that way too. That would be $49.99 for them if they were not a Storied subscriber, if that makes sense.
Does the website have a demo page?
Like, kind of like what I'm doing now, like how to do certain things on the site.
Yeah, to play around with it and see if they like
Oh,
it.
no, so yeah, so what I would suggest with that is to just sign up for a free account, because with a free account, you are going to be able to see everything that you can do. Where it would stop you is if you tried to create a group, or if you tried to look, I mean, you could search for historical records and newspapers, but you'll get the paywall. I mean, you would see kind of how I showed you the search on the newspapers, for example, and it had all of the thumbnails. You would see those, but you couldn't click on it to see the actual newspaper content, if that makes sense. So you should be able to see and do things, but you'll get the paywall if it's something that you have to, that's an additional charge. But you can write stories, you can add trees for free.
Do your stories become part of stories or do they remain private for you?
So when you write a story, at the end of every story, when you're choosing your categories, you can also choose if it's public or private. So if you want it locked down, you can put private, and then it's not accessible to anybody that you don't want it to be accessible to.
Can you opt out of having the QR code on each page?
Sure. I mean, so kind of the process now, the way it works with a book, when the book is ready, our designer will kind of share what that finished product will look like with people. And if there's anything glaring or issues or problems, and if that was something that you did not want to include, I have no doubt that that would be an option. You could just say, don't include it.
Do you happen to have a recipe book on hand that you
I
can show?
do. Yeah. So I'll do a quick show and tell of different types of books. So this is one that I did, and this one is entirely, and it's probably going to be glare and you can't see it, and I never can figure out how to do it so that people can see it good. So this is one that I did that's all newspaper clippings. So the picture is always on the left-hand side in your book, and then the story is on the right-hand side. Your story can be as short as you want or as long as you want. If it's longer, it just continues on to the next pages. But it's always going to start a story with the picture on the left and then the story on the right. So it always is that way. So this one is all newspaper clippings. So I did this for my great-grandfather. I did a newspaper clipping every day or every year that he was born, his birthday subsequently after that. And so then I did a little story about his birthday every year. So that one was all newspaper clippings. This is the one that I was talking about, Kendall, our CEO. This is the one that he did for his mom. This one, I said that the books can be up to 200 pages, which that in the annual subscription, it's 200 pages is what it comes with, but you can make it as many as 460. I don't think we've had anybody go over 200. Most of them are around 150 right now is what people are doing, but this is our monster. That's what I call it. This one is 460 pages. It's ginormous. And just a collection of stories from all of us at Storied. And then this one is the recipe book I created, and kind of the same thing. So I had everybody on the Storied team add a recipe or two, and then I compiled them all together. So I created a group. It was our Storied family recipes, and I created a group, and they shared the recipes with the group. and then I could create the book from the group that way, which was super quick and easy. But this is, so you include a photo. It could be a photo of the person that the recipe came from, or it could be a picture of, you know, the handwritten recipe. And then this is the story with the recipe. But this one is all recipes. And again, we've had people do a mixture. So if you want to do stories and recipes, you could do that too.
What happens to your information once you have stopped your subscription?
It's yours forever. We do not hold it captive. So your stories and your tree information is yours. The only thing that you would not be able to, I mean, people could still access, even if you didn't have a subscription, they could still QR code your story. They would still have access to all of that. Yep.
Have you ever been hacked?
No, we had not to my knowledge that we have not, no.
Okay. Do you guys have security for the site itself?
That would be a question I would have to ask my CTO. I would assume so, but I couldn't answer that. I'd have to ask that question.
How much is the subscription?
So the annual subscription, the ultimate package is 155.88, and that again includes access to everything on the site. That includes the newspaper content, and that includes a book as part of that.
If you add a tree, can anyone change the information?
Not right now. I, I have strong feelings on that personally, but I think a lot of us probably do. Right now, it is your tree and they can view it, but they can't edit. I know that is something that they're working on, but currently it is only the person that owns the tree. And when you create a group, if there is a leader of the leader of the group will share a tree with the group. And then so that means only the group leader can access it or change it.
With the subscription, is it just one book per year?
Yes, but you could do, I mean, you could do others. So additional books are $79.99, but if you are a subscriber, then you get 25% off. So anytime you're a subscriber, it's 25% off for additional books if you want to do a completely different book. So I'll say that again because people get confused. So the $49.99 is if you want additional copies of the book that you made. $79.99 if you want to create an entirely different book. And
Sure.
just to put that into perspective, and I know people have probably, I mean, a lot of people have done books, but I always say this because it helps me when I put things into perspective. So chat books, they're actually our neighbors at the home office. So this was a book that I did, and it is a little bit bigger than I got the bigger version, but it's a little bit bigger than our books. But I did this one before we had storied books, and it is newspaper clippings, and it was for my grandmother. There are no stories in here. It's just clippings with little captions that I put in there. That I did for her was 90 pages, and that cost me $114 just to do that book. And I didn't have access to anything else. Like I had to figure out how to get the image, you know, I had to pay for the images and do all that with another subscription. So this is just having the book is a really great deal with the subscription itself.
Perfect. I was also going to say the designing costs a little bit extra too, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Can the recipe book be indexed?
Oh, I don't think currently, but I'm sure we could have that happen if somebody was creating that. So we kind of get creative, like some people, and this is how in my brain I'm thinking just off the cuff here. So some people have asked for just even in a book, for example, they want like chapters of a book. And so with the chapters, we just have them create a story that is kind of that chapter head, if that makes sense for that particular one. I know that it doesn't end up like create like table of contents and separate them, but that I think we could definitely figure out how to do that for sure.
Okay.
Work with that individual. Yeah, we're really we have an awesome customer service team and design team that works on them. And so anytime anybody has any kind of questions about books and can I do this, can I do that, they are extremely helpful.
Do you have to add a family tree to use the site?
I know the answer used to be yes, but I don't think it is anymore. I will have to, I'm going to have to get, well, that person email me, whoever it is. Um, I think that you have to have some kind of basic tree in there, even if it's just you, but you don't have to tag other people to your stories, if that makes sense. Like if you just want to tell stories and not tag people, you could certainly do that. But I think that you have to have a basic tree. I know they were working for that not to happen anymore. So you could just tell stories.
What is the best format for images?
It accepts JPEGs and PNGs. So whatever you have is, I don't know if it does TIFF. I would be surprised if it doesn't, but I'm not positive on that. I think uh, give me the next question and I'm going to look at that real quick.
Okay.
Because
The next one.
I think it tells when you add your media what it will accept. It does not. It just says photo, but I'll ask that question because I don't know the answer to that. So I'll ask that and find out.
Do your books have page numbers automatically?
Yes, it is automatic. You don't have to. Yeah.
Well, that was the last question, so thank you so
Awesome.
much.
You are certainly welcome. And if anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to email me. I'm happy to answer any questions. And if I don't know the answer, I will find out.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us this
Yes, thank you
afternoon.
so much.
And we will hopefully see everybody again. So thank you, Heather. Have a good
Yeah,
day, everyone. Bye.
thanks. Bye-bye.